7, they allow us to use 7 modules that they developed for high schools and K-12 as well. And we are going to develop some more in the next 2 or 3 months. Okay? So what Mary is going to talk about is something about something very big going in Ireland. The government of Ireland, they want to introduce nanotechnology at the very early ages in K-12, and I think Trinity College is doing that. Okay, so Mary is going to talk to us about what is going on in Ireland. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Abe, and good afternoon, everybody. I'm delighted to be here, and thank you to NEATEC for inviting me over. It's good to be out of the office in Dublin looking out at the rain, so snow is a change. What I'd like to do, I look after the Communications and Education Programme in CRAN, which is a nanoscience research institute based in Trinity College, as Abe said. And what I'm going to do over the next 45 minutes or so is talk to you a little bit about the institute, where we are, who we are, what we do, kind of investment and facilities, and then our context in Ireland and internationally, because I don't know about here, but in Ireland, you may have heard, our economy is a bit, well, struggling, shall we say. So there's a lot of pressure on government to justify why they should continue investing in science generally and in nanoscience. So what is our value? I'll talk a little bit about research, our industrial engagements and commercialization work in Europe, and about a third of the slides are related to my own work, which is trying to engage the public and increase general awareness about nano and what this means for the country. And as Abe said, this program we've developed for secondary school students called Nano in My Life. So I'm not sure if anybody's been to Ireland or knows where we are, or Dublin, but we are the most westerly country in Europe. We're only about 4 million plus population. Dublin, the capital city of just over 1 million, so it's a small city. But Trinity is located right in the heart of Dublin, and it was established in 1592. This is a bit of a history and geography lesson too. So it's pretty old, but that's the front of it. That's looking out towards the front square. And of course, it's the location for the Old Larby, the Book of Kells, which dates to the 9th century. And also we're 2 blocks just from the River Liffey, the main river in Dublin, and that is, of course, the source of Guinness. Now, Guinness was established in 1759, so is actually 150 years younger than Trinity. So that's Dublin, but that is our building, the Naughton Institute, where CRAN is located in Trinity. It was purpose-built for nanoscience. Just before I go into it again a bit more, this year, in 2013, the Irish government has launched this initiative called The Gathering, and it's about encouraging people with Irish ancestry back to visit the country and meet the relatives. So there's a lot of meetings, gathering from 400 to 400 people. But it's not just if you have Irish ancestry. 70 million people in the world claim Irish ancestry. But you know, it's a good opportunity to visit this in 2013 because there'll be a lot of events going on. So that on the right is Glendalough, south of Dublin. It's a round tower which dates to St. Kevin in the 9th century. And we have the Cliffs of Moher on the left, which are 800-metre sea cliffs looking out onto the Atlantic. Now that is my work for the Irish Tourist Board complete. I know that's not what you're here for, but it's worth mentioning. So to get into CRAN, I have a little video here which shows where we are. Do we have sound, better sound? Can't hear that. Sorry. There, no sound. Should be plugged in, yeah. Well, we can come back to the video. It's the visuals, really. That's the building, and you saw some pictures of Trinity. That's our advanced microscopy lab. Some of the infrastructure, a helium ion microscope. That's our executive director talking about things. Clean room.
She's plugged in the right place.
It's plugged in, but yes, the...
It's working moments ago, Mary.
Never mind, so we'll skip the video, and somebody might sort it out in the meantime. So the infrastructure. As I said, it was purpose designed for nanoscience. Now, actually, the location is a bit unfortunate in that we're beside a train station. So for very precise measurements, that is actually not the ideal location for a nanoscience research institute. What it meant was there had to be a lot of work gone into the building. So the foundation is much deeper than normal. The basement where the STM and AFMs are located are on 1 ton concrete plinths to minimize vibration. So there's quite a lot of work went on. As you can see from the kind of funding, about a quarter is in the building and infrastructure and half in fundamental research for PIs. The main state funding agency in Ireland is called Science Foundation Ireland, and that is our main funder. So the building has a purpose-built clean room, which allows device structures, a manipulation of device structures creation on 300mm wafers, and it has the full functionality of lithography and metal deposition. We have a nanobio facility that was talked about this morning, that type of work. This is an inkjet spotter, which allows deposition of biological materials about 40 to 90 micrometers, so very precise onto what we work on, silicon cantilevers, again for that rapid and sensitive diagnosis and detection of single microorganism growth. So there's a nanobio facility. There's our photonics lab, which is the most advanced laser system in the country and allows very precise low or high resolution. And we have a suite of STMs and AFMs in the basement. So we also have this advanced microscopy lab, which brings together a suite of microscopes into one location, which again have very high resolution. Just in case you're falling asleep there. This is a helium ion microscope. There's about a dozen of those in the world, and it allows resolution of less than 1 nanometer. It's the only one, needless to say, in Ireland. There's a couple in Europe, but they're not very common. And then we have a range of SEMs and TEM on the bottom there. In fact, we've just been awarded, Science Foundation Ireland have awarded us a grant for a new arboration-corrected TEM, an even bigger and higher resolution version of your regular TEM. But this has been the largest state investment in any piece of infrastructure in Ireland ever. It is estimated to be worth about €5 million. And given the state of our economy, that is pretty impressive to be awarded this at that time. So the government do seem to be committed to continuing investment in infrastructure and science. The budget has not been reduced just last November, so that is encouraging. So who we are, there are about 19 principal investigators. They're all linked to the schools in Trinity and also in University College Cork, which is in the southwest of the country. So we have the School of Physics, Chemistry, Medicine, Pharmacy, Engineering, and we've also brought in another recently just 20 investigators across a wider disciplines like biochemistry and immunology and so on. So they're from around the world, as you can see. And that's what's driving this research and industry engagement. And linked to those 19 PIs, you have 300 plus researchers, again from around the world. I mean, there's a lot of talk about people leaving Ireland to get jobs, but actually, you know, this kind of investment and the quality has brought in people, which is good too, I think, for a country that was traditionally quite, well, all about emigration and not having people come to the country. Now, the Institute Board, which basically looks after the strategic direction and success of the Institute, really is a combination of people who have a lot of experience both scientifically, academically, and in industry. So you'll see like the VP and General Manager of Intel Ireland. I think Intel in Ireland is equivalent to, or in, you know, global foundries here in Albany. It's very important to us. We have Keith and Irons from Imperial College London, so a good mixture of industrial and academic experience on the board. So the value, that's, you know, who we are and what we have, but so what, you know? When you're reading the newspapers or people are saying, well, why am I giving, you know, my taxpayers' money going €5 million to this arboration-corrected TEM? It's our job, I think it's really important to talk to people, to inform the public about why we should invest in this rather than, or, you know, in addition to schools and hospitals. There's so much, you know, look at the state of our hospitals and schools. Why should we be giving this to science? But this is what we need to do. Talk to people about why that's important. And in Ireland, if we look at the 4 main industries, really we are reliant as a small country on multinationals. So across these sectors, medical device, ICT, industrial technologies, and pharmaceuticals, they are the 4 largest sectors in Ireland, employing, now remember, of a population of 4 million people, these sectors employ over 250,000 people and are responsible for 70% of exports. So those 4 industries are very important to us. And we have 9 out of the top 10 global medical device and pharmaceutical companies in the world based in Ireland. So that's your Abbott, Johnson & Johnson, Merck, Millipore, and so on. And 9 out of the top 10 US ICT sectors, like Intel, Google, HP, Microsoft, all based in Ireland, rather than anywhere else in Europe. Now, that's a lot to do with corporate tax rates, which a lot of other countries in Europe do not like us for, but the reality is these are employing a lot of people in the country. And what brings them together, or the common link in these sectors, is the need to be able to manipulate and engineer materials at very small structures. That's the kind of, you know, miniaturization of devices and ability to control and understand materials which is driving innovation in these sectors. And that's where hopefully CRAN comes in, or who we are working with. So the kind of impacts are, because again of the you know, solid research, it's driving, bringing in industry to work with us. It's enabling commercialization. And because of the work we do with the media, hopefully people are becoming informed, and what we're interested in is bringing more students into the STEM subjects and talking about careers. You know, this opportunity to be well educated will improve your chances in challenging, rewarding careers. But as I said, there's more pressure on the state to reduce funding, or at least, you know, a pressure on us to obtain funding from other sources. And in the last year, we have obtained over 50% of our funding from non-exchequer sources, which the government, needs to say, are very happy to hear about. They want us to get funding from outside themselves. Now, most of this funding in our case has come from Europe. Turns out Europe has a pot of money to give out to science through its framework FP7 program. I'll talk more a bit about that, but we've been quite successful in getting that. Now, just to talk a bit about the research, we're nationally leading in CRAN because we lead this INSPIRE consortium, which basically brings together all the academic institutes involved in nano in Ireland. We also co-host this collaboration called CCAN, which is the Collaborative Centre for Applied Nanotechnology. It basically enables industry to work with academia. We have over 150 international collaborations, academic and industry, mainly in Europe. And our PIs have won a lot of national and international awards. So Intel Prize Lecturers, Science Foundation Ireland Researchers of the Year, John Boland, the Director, an International ASIN Prize for Nanoscience. So that is what is helping our research reputation. And you can see in the last 8 years, because CRAN is just celebrating 10 years this year, but really it's been in the last 5 to 8 years where all the investment has taken place. And our publications and citations have increased with good citations per paper and H-index. Our national rankings, internationally at least, Ireland is ranked 8th in material science. That was from Thomson Reuters in 2010. Now you can see US is 2nd, but what I'd say about that is Ireland in the last, had 0 funding in science up till 15 to 20 years ago. the state agency Science Foundation Ireland would say themselves that the quality of science output and how we were rated was equivalent to Bangladesh 20 years ago. Now that's not good. So what we have done in the last 5 to 8 years has been pretty phenomenal, really. There's only been investments in the last 5 years. Most of the publications enabling that ranking are coming from CRAN. A bit about the research, just a couple of slides. It's pretty broad ranging because, as I have said, the PIs are from a range of disciplines: physics, chemistry, medicine, etc. Graphene, I'm sure you've heard about or know little or a lot about, but it's talked about as the new wonder material of our age. I mean, it was only isolated in 2004 for the first time. So there has been an explosion of research internationally, particularly into how to produce this in large quantities commercially. One of our PIs, Johnny Coleman and Valeria Nicolosi, published in Science a couple of years ago on an inexpensive and simple method of isolating, of exfoliating graphene, so into single atom thick layer sheets. And what they're trying to do then is use that in a range of other 3D materials to create single sheets. Now the advantage, why would you want to do that? The extraordinary properties that graphene and these single atom thick nano sheets have. Basically, graphene is 200 times stronger than steel, but it's very light. It's a very good conductor. It's impermeable. So it has particularly talked about applications in thermoelectrics. And Valeria, our PI there, is working with a company on incorporating using graphene in batteries and supercapacitors and so on. So, and that's a review that Johnny did on other 2D materials that would have similar properties. That is a big area of research. Another area that we look at is nanowire networks. Now, these can be metallic or semiconducting, but they're range in size. You know, they can be 10 to 20 atoms thick, but several microns long. What he's looking at is how they behave depending on how they're produced and, you know, the type of network. So again, looking at the connectivity of these networks, it's thought, and this is quite early stage research, but this would have implications for your kind of neuromorphic computers, so memoristic behavior. I mean, there's still things done that computers are not good at doing. Facial recognition is one of those things, and this maybe have applications in that, nanowire networks. And I briefly mentioned our silicon they're micron-sized cantilevers, a little bit like diving boards, and depending on how they're treated again and the detection of, it can detect single microorganism growth. So again, you know, it was mentioned this morning, malaria, but also Parkinson's and swine flu and so on. So that there's some just a sample of the range of research. But again, many people would say, well, you know, that sounds fine, but how is that helping with the taxpayers' money? And this is what we answer. Well, you know, Intel is our biggest industry partner, has been with us since CRAN's inception 8 years ago. And what they are interested in, of course, is following Moore's law. So doubling the number of transistors on an IC device within every 18 months to 2 years. And that is becoming, as you know, increasingly difficult to work below 15 nanometers. So what CRAN is doing is looking at alternative solutions to this, maybe you know, self-organizing block copolymers, which we have characterized at 5 nanometers, and other magnetic materials. But the kind of partnership, you know, that's been actual real investment in this program in the last couple of years, because the idea of industry giving money to universities in Ireland is pretty new. That was always thought of. Universities are there to do research and academic, and industry, why should we support this? But they're slowly coming around to the idea that they should be giving us money to do this. So we've had a lot of researchers, PhD students employed by Intel in recent years, and including one out to the components research in Portland, in Oregon, and there is real communication. Some of our research has been licensed to Intel in the States, so it's not just Ireland. You know, it's the guys go out and visit Portland quite a lot. And we have researchers in residence, so employed by Intel, but working with us on this research. So other ICT companies would be like Western Digital and some smaller indigenous companies as well. If we're to look at the medical device sector now, I mean, Dupuy, so some of their work involves depositing this material called hydroxyapatite onto their hip implants. And it's a synthetic bone material. What it does is promote bone growth. So if you have a hip transplant, you've a reduced recovery rate, and you know, it's better for patients. But Dupuy has a site in Cork in Ireland, and before the engagement with CRAN, they had to go to Germany and get this hydroxyapatite deposited onto the hip implant and then taken it back to Cork. But with the work that we did with them, they were able to work and learn how to kind of deposit it evenly and to correct industry standards. So this has meant they estimate a saving of about 3.5 million. And also, of course, that is enabling jobs and increasing the R&D part of Dupuy. Medtronic, again, a big global medical technology company. And one of their products is a balloon catheter. So you have your cardiac stent mounted onto a balloon, and that's inserted into your artery. The balloon is inflated, pushing back the plaque. The stent is left there, the balloon is removed. But actually, there's quite a high failure rate with these balloon catheters. So what they want to do is look at improving the strength or reducing the burst rate. So work we are doing with them is with carbon nanotubes into those materials, into those balloons. And again, this is improving the R&D Medtronic are also based in Cork. So to look at some industrial technologies, Merck, again, make membranes. So this is for everything from filtering to drug delivery to diagnostics. So they're widely used in the hospital and pharma sector. And again, what we're doing with them is working on improving those membranes. So just looking at the structures and how to make them, you know, more efficient. And again, you know, R&D in Merck was really low. You know, there's not many people outside of a lot of these multinational companies. The R&D base is mainly in the States, and what we've managed to do is bring some of that, increase the R&D in Ireland, which is very significant, and it's good. Beer, always a topic for, you know, people like to hear about and talk about in Ireland anyway. And you know, this has been an investment Sabmiller have put into CRAN. So what they're trying to do is have a longer shelf life for plastic beer bottles. Why would you want that? Well, at the moment, the shelf life is about 6 months, so they're useful for concerts and outdoor events like that. But you know, they don't last very long. But if we had more plastic beer bottles, the transportation costs would be reduced. You know, they're lighter. So the problem with plastic bottles at the moment is that the carbon dioxide leaks out and oxygen gets in. So it's a problem. And one of our PIs is looking at these kind of, as I mentioned, layered materials, in this case boron nitride, which prevents the diffusion of gas molecules, or at least slows it down. So just in the last 2 years, there's been a €250,000 investment by Sabmiller in CRAN to work on this very important problem. Actually, the interesting thing was, you know, what I'm trying to look after is communications, and so couldn't be a better story than beer. We're trying to improve beer. You know, this went on every television show and newspaper article. We had a huge media hit about it. Moving on to pharmaceuticals. So Sigmoid Pharma, one of their technologies is about liquid emulsion drug delivery system. So what is that? It's basically controlling the release of drugs at certain sites, targeted sites along the GI tract, for example, in oral vaccines. And what they have is a capsule, you know, with tiny micron-sized capsule within that. And what CRAN is doing, again, is looking at characterizing those microcapsules within our advanced microscopy lab. So enabling Sigmoid to look at the distribution and the coatings and so on in more detail. So that was a few examples of industry, but there's a range of other companies using our facilities all the time. And commercialization. So, you know, again, this has been quite new to Ireland, the idea that there should be spin-outs from university or that, you know, licensing the technology, because there still is a mindset that, you know, it's for academic use, our research and knowledge, and commercialization is seen maybe as a dirty word by some people still. But what we have is a range of technologies available for license. We have a team, a commercialization team, who are working with the PIs on transferring that to industry. I have another video, but until we can sort out the sound, that's a pity. I'm not sure why it's not working, but definitely is not working. That's our building, though, or the outside of it.
The bottom right corner, the microphone was X'd out, so you're on mute. If you go to the desktop, or do you go down there?
Ah. Okay, let's try that again. Thank you.
You know, it all boils down to getting world-class researchers and giving them the money to be able to advance things.
Their whole raison d'etre is to get the technology out there and used in industry.
We really try to listen to what industry wants to do. CRAN is a nanoscience and material science research institute based in Trinity College, Dublin. CRAN is really focused, firstly and foremost, on doing really great research. And what we find when we do really great research is that we invent new ideas, and those new ideas provide new opportunities.
It's incredibly important that an academic institute understands the needs of business in terms of pace and flexibility, and CRAN is an institute which does that.
Well, I think the collaboration between Intel Ireland and CRAN has been a very successful and important one. I appreciate the way CRAN is a very flexible institute to work in.
The funding that CRAN has had from the Irish government is incredible, and they have converted that into world-leading technologies around nanostands.
Well, nanotechnology is hugely important because it provides us access to materials that we never had before.
I guess what we look at really are technologies which are applied towards the ICT sector, medical devices, a little bit for the pharmaceuticals. It's kind of catch-all of industrial technologies.
In the area of ICT, we're making a lot of progress with telecommunications technologies. In particular, we're looking at methodologies or new techniques for optimizing signal to noise, so we were able to receive better wireless communications. In the area of medical device technologies, we're particularly interested in cantilever arrays, which allow us to do label-free diagnostics, so we can detect small quantities of microorganisms, which will be very helpful in that area. In the area of advanced manufacturing, we've developed chromatographic resonance technologies that allows us to do high-efficiency separations, but importantly, the resins are actually alkaline resistant, so it's possible to reuse them over and over again, which is a big advance. A particular focus of CRAN is the fact of novel materials, because they provide the means to impact technologies. We're making a lot of progress with nanowires, particularly for memory applications. But down the road, we're hoping we'll be able to look at neural networks.
A lot of times inventions in a particular field or area, especially when it comes to advanced materials, it's not clear where the actual best application is. And that's where your commercialization team within the university is helping.
The role of the commercialization team in CRAN is to work with the principal investigators to give their technologies the best opportunity for career success.
To bridge the gap between academia and industry.
What's unique about CRAN and the approach they take is that it's incredibly professional. They really want to see the technology used. They engage very well with the industry. They have a very business-like approach.
The CRAN commercialization team are absolutely on the ground, whereas we are acting on behalf of the university.
They bend over backwards to open the doors and create a collaborative atmosphere.
CRAN are very pro-business, very flexible.
An institution in the middle of nowhere,
promotion for the commercialization team. We've had a number of spin-outs, most recently, well, it's about to spin out this company called Adama Innovations. And what they're about is patterning nanoscale patterns or imprinting on really hard surfaces like diamond. So probably the most useful application will be AFM tips, but also security applications on coins. Apparently there's a very high fraud rate with fraudulent coins, and aircraft parts and medical devices and so on. So Europe, as I said, Europe is a huge source of funding. The current research program, which ends at the end of this year, was worth 50 billion euro. And we've managed to get some of that money off them, 15 million over the last few years. But it's not just about the funding. I mean, this program is how the direction of research is thought about, and from the European Commission's point of view. So it's about influencing the direction of research and benchmarking ourselves. So as I say, we're working with over 150 collaborators in industry. So it's the main industry in Europe, like Roche and Infineon, and they're located all over France, Germany, UK. And also, apart from industry, it's the main academic institutions like the Fraunhofer and Imperial College. So we're working with all of those people in Europe. And now on to what I do know a bit more about, which is public engagement and outreach. So what we're trying to do really is develop an innovative program of activities aiming to really communicate the value to a range of audience, the value of nanoscience and the impacts it has. Now the kind of target audiences are primary and secondary students, university students, teachers, industry, and the wider public. So it's a pretty diverse group, and therefore there is a diverse program of activities. Now one of the main ways is through media. I don't know what people in the States do still read newspapers or watch the news, but the broadsheets are pretty popular, and if you appear on TV, people will hear about it. So we've really put a lot of effort into that in the last few years to increase our media output across those: newspaper, radio, online. Now, not surprisingly, I guess, over half of our outputs are online, and about a third are newspaper. That's been the same for the last couple of years. But it's across broadsheets, and the kind of stuff we're getting reported is what we're about, what we're doing. Industry, there's nothing like euro funds, money and jobs to get in the newspapers. That is what's going to get reported. Harder to get reported scientific research, but we do try. And then these kind of supplements for school students in the newspapers about science. So, but it's not just the broadsheets. I mean, I think really people who are interested in science will read the important newspapers, but I think the red tops, we have to not ignore them just because we might look down on them, or they mightn't have the great analysis that other quality newspapers have. If we want to reach everyone, we should be talking to all media outlets, I think. So the type of web exposure we're getting: NanoWork, Silicon Republic, and also through our own website. And what we've been conscious of in the last couple of years that probably didn't happen a while ago was our presence on Twitter. How many people have a Twitter account? Yeah, so it's not a lot, yeah. But, again, we only kind of have got into this in the last 18 months or so. And our followers are increasing all the time. And we have some influential people retweeting us, like industry, and, so that's good. And also YouTube. We're conscious again that the YouTube generation, people don't want to read lots of text online, they just want to watch it in a film. So we're trying to make short, snappy videos. The other way, of course, the most influential people are those who have the money and are deciding on the direction of funding. That is the Minister for State, I know he looks very young, but for Science and Technology, visiting our facilities. So needless to say, a lot of these politicians are not from a science and technology background, so it's really trying to tell them again, what we're doing and relate it to real world applications. We had an industry day just in November last year, and it was launched by the minister, and this was just 2 weeks before the budget. So to get him to come along to this was a huge deal. And the way we structured it was that we had 20 of our major industry companies. This is the R&D guy from Medtronic, and he has a cardiac stent in his hand. We got them to bring along their product and show them, because talking about the research that enables this is not going to attract and keep the attention of the politicians, but bringing the product along works. So we had a tour again of our facilities, clean room, and we got lots of media attention. Another event that took place last year in Dublin was this European Science Open Forum, which is a huge convention, over 500 delegates from around Europe. So you had people like the CEO of CERN was at it in Dublin. We had James Watson, Nobel laureates, and so on. But we also managed to get our own PIs to give some presentations, Johnny Coleman on graphene, and we had, again, media attention because of that, which was fantastic. I think this is a really interesting area, the idea of science and art. So, for example, the state agency, Science Foundation Ireland, have this research image competition. And this is something, these kind of images that we put up on our walls and boardrooms to, again, explain the science. But this, as part of the City of Science in Dublin last year, they had research images all around the walls and buildings and bridges of Dublin. And this was one of ours. It actually won the SFI Research Image of the Year. And we also, you know, Ireland and theatre and writing and so on, it's not too difficult for us to do, but this actually is an international script competition to write the best new play about science and technology. In fact, it's coordinated by the University of California in Santa Barbara, and we have connections with them through the Nanoscience Centre there. So there was over 200 applications, and an Australian playwright won, but we staged it in Dublin. It was only the second time they've staged it outside the US. It's been running for about 20 years. And we had some top Irish actors. You probably don't know any of those, but they're kind of top. And so as a result of this City of Science, Dublin has now committed to have this annual 3-day science event starting this year. So that has been a good outcome, because too often, I think, you have these one-off events and then it dies and nothing happens. What we do, though, in CRAN ourselves is this Nano Week. Now this, as the name suggests, aims to increase understanding and inform the general public on all aspects of nanotechnology. And it's coordinated by these groups I was talking briefly about, Inspire and Collaborative. So it's industry and academia nano in Ireland coming together to increase awareness of nanoscience. And last year we launched it. So there's always a conference, but last year we had this magical materials exhibition. We are in the lucky position of being located above Dublin's Science Gallery, which is not your regular science museum. Again, it talks about bringing together science and art. And that was the boarding from outside. That's a view of it. But we had over 80 materials, and they used this comic superhero theme, because their target audience in Science Gallery is age 15 to 25. So I guess some 15 to 25-year-olds are interested in comic superheroes, but it ties in well to nano, because you have got the properties of nanomaterials being extraordinary and fabulous superheroes. So it really attracted a lot of attention. We had over 47,000 visitors in 6 weeks, particularly school students. And there are some of the materials. We had aerogel, and we had our cantilevers, we had quantum dots, spider silk, quantum levitation demonstrations. And we also had this, people could put on earphones and listen to these 4 researchers, young PhD students. They had to talk about the research, and people were asked, if you had €10,000 to invest in research, which would you invest in? So that was quite interesting. We have public lectures. So this is Valeria Nicolosi, and she came over from Oxford, talking about not having jobs in Ireland and people not coming to Ireland, but she actually left a position in Oxford to go to Dublin. So she's up and coming young PI, but has done very well, and she won an Intel award, gave a public lecture, and again got a lot of media attention. We, of course, like this, have a Nano Week conference, but the whole idea really of Nano Week is to get media attention, which we were successful with again across online, newspapers, Twitter. Now, the schools program, which is how I came into contact with Abe, we developed this Nano in My Life resource pack. And really it started off as a DVD, a video, short clips of our PIs and researchers. And we had 10 chapters in that. Now it was designed to be, you don't have to watch it sequentially. You can skip to the chapter on careers, or you can go to IT and materials. But it was very linked to real world applications, because feedback we got from teachers and even students, what they say to teachers apparently is that the science they're learning, it's not in the curriculum related enough to real world applications. They don't see its application. So that's why we made it very real world or application focused. And within these you have suggested timings for each module. We have syllabus links, obviously, to the Irish state system. Worksheets, we have experiments, simple lab and classroom activities, and we have video for each of those 7 modules. Now, the feedback has been very positive. What teachers are saying, it makes them realize what's going on in their own country, because typically we think of this kind of research as happening maybe in the States or internationally. And it also makes them think about, careers in this. So that's the Nano in My Life, but just briefly about some other outreach programs we do for schools. We have this Experience Nano Week where teenagers can come into the institute and spend time with the postgrads and go out to Intel and go to lectures, which again has been very popular. And the whole aim to increase student interest in STEM subjects is coming out in our feedback. This NPCAM course is our undergraduate nanoscience degree program you can do in Trinity, so it's making them aware of that and what that really means. We have poster competitions to relate what they've learned and display it in a poster. So What's Next for Nano was one in 2011, but we've been following on the magical materials theme with Design Your Nano Superhero. We have that competition running at the moment with Science Gallery. We have this national competition, which is, I think, really brilliant, because it actually gets students to debate kind of the cultural, ethical, moral implications of a range of biomedical topics. So you've not just got nano. We do workshops in schools, but you've got GM foods, self-testing, stem cells. So they learn about these topics and debate it and have a national competition. And actually, this is a yearly event, a Young Scientist and Technology exhibition, which has been really popular. Again, we had 45,000 visitors in 3 days. It's run by or sponsored by a telecommunications company, BT. But students submit projects across a range of topics. And the winner goes on to represent Ireland in a European Science Technology exhibition. It's in its 49th year. It's really popular with students, parents, and it's really fantastic. It got front page coverage of all the newspapers last weekend. And this was a new initiative we did, which was really successful. Again, a couple of hundred students come into Science Gallery, cool jobs. So you get people from Intel and Google talking to them about how they got there, what it is. We had this seed dating, a bit like speed dating, except they talk to people from different companies every 3 minutes and rotate. And so there was a range of ways of talking to people with cool jobs. Finally, just our education at 3rd and 4th level, obviously the kind of standard, and we're very conscious of the need to maintain high standards with our graduates. The undergraduate degree program has really increased in popularity. Now, I guess that's the same globally, because people in Ireland aren't going to do architecture or banking anymore. The message is going through that there are jobs in science and technology. So therefore, the points, the requirements based on your final scores in school have gone up. And this year, 27% of students had science STEM courses listed as their first course, which was a 20% increase on the year before. So that's good. We run communications workshops for our PhD students, which is popular. And we also have this, which I think has been really successful. It's called Thesis in 3. I'm not sure if you do anything like this, where you have your PhD student presenting what their program is about, 3 minutes and 3 slides. And it's really timed, and a buzzer goes and you're out of there if you have not finished in 3 minutes. But the whole idea of it is that you could explain to your granny what you are doing. And I think it's really important, because sometimes PhD students get lost in the whole, they don't know what they're doing, what's the overall picture, what's the aim. So this has been very successful in getting them to think and present simply about what they are doing. So I'm just going to finish with a short clip of a video we had. What adds to the attraction, of course, is it's held in a local hostelry, and it's meant to be informal. It's meant to be about talking to your friends about what you do. So it's in a local pub, and it's a relaxed kind of environment. Oh, work. Oh, you might have to come and look at it with me later. That's annoying.
So very quickly, we know iron is a paramagnetic element. So anyone who doesn't know what paramagnet is, just think what you think a magnet is, and then add the word ferro onto it, and then you get paramagnet.
In general, contrast agents are used to improve image quality in MRI, and magnetic nanoparticles could have huge potential in this area because they're strongly magnetic, but also because their unique properties, thanks to their nanoscale size, means that we can use lower doses in MRI.
We also need to make use of evaporation. So as I'm standing here, sweating in front of you all, the water on my skin is evaporating off, cooling me down a little bit.
Both of these different types of memory have advantages and disadvantages, and one way to combine the advantages while eliminating some of the disadvantages is to combine the two into one ultimate memory.
So that gives you a sample of Thesis in 3. It's a good, fun event. So really, that's where I'm going to finish. Summary, I guess we have good infrastructure and researchers. We're active in industry engagement. We're trying to get more money from sources other than government. And the education element is very important. So we want to highly educated graduates who have better chance of employment. That's it. Thank you.
We still have some time for questions, if you have some for Mary.
You may want to talk about the nanolights that we have those modules.
The modules that Mary gave us?
Yeah.
Yeah, you saw that the 7 modules that they developed in Ireland. Trinity College was kind enough to let us use them with all the attribution to Trinity College, and some of our K-12 teachers are familiar with them. And I think maybe tomorrow you have a
today,
workshop.
actually, just
Have a
now.
workshop,
Yeah.
where Mary is going to introduce these modules with hands-on activities as well. So you will see what are all they about. Okay. Yeah.
How low in age do you target? How young students do you?
Well, yeah, to be honest, at the moment we haven't done a lot for students under the age of 12, but we're beginning to do some work And I know you've done some, so it might be something we can also do some work on, but we're beginning to target now younger audiences too. But it hasn't been something we've developed materials on for yet, for under 12.
We're going to develop some modules, NEATEC and CRAN, together with the help of Mary. So probably we're going to have some around the eight modules next year maybe. Okay, any other questions? So thank you very much, Mary, and applause. Thank you very much.